Well, thanks for joining us on another At Odds pod. And I can tell you, the team and myself, we're all battling the dreaded lurgy. We're all on the sick list. We'd all have yellow marks next to our names if we were FPL players. But the good news is, we're here. We're going to struggle on, and we're going to find you some great value on a number of things this week. Have a quick chat about an NFL game at least later on. I'll be chatting about Champions Day we've got coming up, and there's some epic football as well to touch on. I suppose we have to start, don't we, lads, with the biggest game of the weekend. Certainly is for Jake. Liverpool v City, 4:30 kickoff on Sunday. Cancel your plans, lads. This is the game that you've got to make sure you've done everything you need to do with the kids. You've told the missus you're busy. Get sat in front of the telly. Get her with you. This is going to be class. Jake, you're a City fan. What's your view going into this game?
Well, you did touch upon us being ill. Now, us being ill stopped us recording the podcast yesterday. If we did record the podcast yesterday, I probably would have been extremely positive, buzzing for the game even more. But last night's Liverpool performance, I know they were only against Rangers. No disrespect to Rangers there, but they looked unbelievable. They scored 7 goals. Salah scored a hat-trick in 6 minutes. It was the perfect result for him, really, after last weekend's game where they looked really poor against Arsenal, I thought. But part of me is confident going into this one. And then part of me thinks we don't really do well at Anfield, so anything could happen. What about you?
Well, I mean, as a neutral, I was impressed. Last night I did watch the Rangers game and the return of Mo Salah. You know, who we'd say is out of form. I thought he put in what was it? His hat trick was something like he scored a hat trick in less time than it takes to play Elton John's Tiny Dancer. Like, I mean, as obscure things go, I quite enjoyed that tweet.
Who's come up with that one? That is,
I don't know. I can't say it was me, but it was a good one. But all jokes aside, I did think Liverpool certainly needed that result. But does it change anything about the game on Sunday? In my book, no. I think Liverpool are incredibly vulnerable defensively. We don't know who's going to play where really at the moment. Tsimikas, I really like going forward, but I think he's still a liability. Trent, if he starts, are you convinced that he's going to be suddenly able to play 90 minutes up against world-class forward players and keep them quiet? I'm not. I don't even think Van Dijk, by the way, who seems to have, I don't quite get this. He seems to have escaped quite a lot of criticism. I don't know whether it's because maybe he's a centre back, so it's a bit different. He's not made too many obvious errors, but I certainly think there's been a breakdown in communication, and I think he's the one that you'd have to say should own that area of Liverpool's defensive unit, you know, being that leader, the most experienced one in there. So, yeah, it hasn't changed my outlook, Jake. I must say I'm still pretty keen on City. I'll come to my bet a bit later on because I know a man that is keen on City is Sam Farley, looking at the bet that he's going to nominate for this game.
Yeah, just to echo what you said, you know, playing Glasgow Rangers, I mean, like, with all due respect to them, they are a great club, but if they were in the Premier League, they'd be getting relegated. They are simply not good enough to compete at that level right now. And Liverpool, for all of their problems at the back, they still are good going forward. They have the likes of Jota, Firmino, Salah. I mean, Darwin Núñez still maybe question marks over him, but that defense worries me. I think Trent, there's no chance he plays. I think you're going to get Joe Gomez at right back, which, I mean, that's going to limit so much of their attacking play. It's going to be all about Tsimikas or Robertson, whoever plays on the left, kind of bombing on. And Gomez is going to be staying at home quite a lot, I think. And then I imagine it's going to be Konate alongside Van Dijk. Konate is good. I actually expected him to really kind of develop into a top player. And it hasn't quite happened yet because of injuries, I think. But he's certainly got the potential. He's got everything to his game. But I just look at that midfield, and that's what would worry me more. Henderson, this isn't the Henderson of old. His legs are gone. Fabinho doesn't even look quite like the guy we've seen previously. When there's less kind of leggy players around him, it kind of really shows that he's not the most mobile. Thiago, is Thiago playing? I think he's another one with like a fitness doubt, but I imagine he'll probably play. It's not super mobile, and against that Liverpool, against that Man City team, I think you need to be. They just could do everything. I think Jack Grealish has played really well recently. Maybe not so much in the Champions League this past week, but he's been so good. Foden's playing so well. De Bruyne's playing so well, and Haaland, you just give him a chance, he'll score. I think this is just going to be quite an easy win, to be honest. And I've got to say, I don't have the odds in front of me. I was staggered when I looked at the odds, and I know both teams are in very different places, but you can get a really, really good price on Liverpool. And if you'd said before the season you'd get this price on Liverpool against Man City, you wouldn't have believed it. So there is that,
sort of the best kind of price for the 90-minute market.
That's mad, isn't it? But for me, Man City to win at halftime, Man City to win at full time, 19-10, just under 2-1. And this is a team that they start games fairly quick most of the time. Liverpool a bit suspect at the back. I could definitely see City scoring in the first half. Yeah. I think City will concede at some point, though.
Yeah, well, this is an interesting point. It comes onto my bet. I'm going to put Rodri up to be carded any time at 3-1. I think City will probably, in my head, take an early lead. I'm not saying they're then going to sit back, but then they allow themselves the opportunity to hit Liverpool on the break. Liverpool at home are going to be under pressure from that crowd, aren't they, to press forward. I can quite easily see. I actually think there'll be quite a few cards in this, and I must confess I've not done my ref homework yet, so I need to check. But I would be having a few dabbles on some card builders for players you think that will start the 90. Rodri for me at 3-1 is rock solid. He's going to have to do a lot of the defensive work. City don't come up against too many teams that will press against them, or at least give it a good go. Liverpool, you're going to get that. So I thought 3-1 was probably a shade bigger than I'd want to lay. So that's the price that I'll be taking. Jake, you're being a bit pessimistic here with your scorecast as a City fan.
I think with one win at Anfield in the last 20 years, and that win coming behind closed doors when COVID was affecting the league, that's the thing that's making me worry about this game even more, because that's the only real worry at the minute. Our side is better than that Liverpool side, but Anfield is just a place where we struggle. And is it a mental thing with the players? Maybe. Just a couple of facts around the game. Liverpool have scored twice against City, at least 2 times in the last 4 games. So is that a thing where Liverpool know that they can score against us? Maybe. An interesting fact about it, though, is Liverpool haven't won in 5 Premier League games against City, which I thought was mental. I thought that both sides are a lot more even. It's been a case of one team winning one game, one team winning another. But there's been 3 draws and 2 losses for Liverpool in the last 5 Premier League games, which is crazy. And if that continues, then it'll be brilliant for me. But I just thought a 2-2 draw here, same as last season at 12-1, is my pick for the game. I'm going a little £2 on Manuel Akanji to be carded at 9-2, because Akanji will likely play right back for us this weekend, with Walker obviously still injured. Cancelo will play left back, and I think at 9-2 it's a great price. He's not been booked yet for us this season, but he's going to be coming up against a great attack for Liverpool, and maybe Robertson is back to going down that left-hand side. So 9-2 for Akanji to be carded is a great price also, I think.
Yeah.
Do you think he definitely starts on that side? Because I thought they might start Gomez left and then Cancelo right.
I think he might have started Gomez left, but Gomez getting sent off midweek, Pep wouldn't like that at all. I think Pep's the type of manager who did it with Kyle Walker in the Champions League, and Walker's one of our best players. When he got sent off, he didn't play Walker then for a month after that. He didn't start him. He was furious with him. And that was in a game which meant nothing to him. And that game midweek, I just think that Pep, he wouldn't have liked that one bit. And again, Anfield, can you trust Gomez at Anfield too? That's the other thing. Whereas Akanji has played right back for us a couple of times already this season and played well too. So
I mean, isn't it awful, Sam? These City fans worrying that they're going to have a makeshift defence. I mean, it's funny, isn't it? Both sides sort of seem to have their own respective injury issues. I mean, I know Trent hasn't had the best of seasons, but he's definitely a loss for Liverpool, especially if they're trying to find a goal. And in a game like this, I really, I know he gets fun poked at him. I do want to see Trent, especially as England seem to be running out of right backs fast. Hopefully, Reece James's injury midweek wasn't too serious. Doesn't seem to be, but we do need players like that back to his best. And Liverpool are, when you look at the table, it's dramatically off the pace at the moment in terms of, what do we realistically think Liverpool are going to play for once we get back from the World Cup? If they're still not closing that, if they don't close the gap on, let's say City brush them aside 3-0 here, like I'm expecting to happen. I mean, the title is gone. Like that's pretty much already being said. But realistically, what's a good season for Liverpool? If they finish third and manage to nick a cup?
I'd say so.
Yeah, that's literally it. Yeah.
I think the Trent thing's weird because I think he's got almost Maguired now, built up to like this pedestal, and he's not playing particularly well. But like people, same as they've done to Maguire, they act like they're this absolutely woeful footballer who is a liability every time they're on the pitch, which it just isn't true. Like neither of those guys are particularly bad. Like sure, they're maybe not as good as the hype once kind of said they were, but it's just getting a bit silly. And we seem to be in a cycle of doing this in the Premier League, just hyping these players up and then inevitably like football Twitter taking absolute glee when things go wrong. So yeah.
Welcome to social media, Sam. I guess that's unfortunately what it's done. When you think about it in the years of old, the other thing I'd say about Trent, just on his form really quickly, he must have played a hell of a lot of football for Liverpool in the last 3 years. Realistically, actually, I think Klopp's been a little bit greedy with not rotating some of his players more often. And I think he's had to play Trent even when Trent perhaps should have been dropped earlier or given a little break, because there's no player in the world that keeps their form consistently forever over a 5-year period. There just isn't. There'll be someone that always has, and we don't know what goes on in their private lives. You've got no idea what someone's dealing with at home. Sometimes maybe being such a young player as well. I mean, I can't even remember how old Trent is, but he's so young to have played that much football. Consistency isn't something that's easy to come by. So I'm certainly not going to write him off, and I look forward to seeing him back. And from an English perspective, and actually from just a general perspective of the league, I hope he does refine his form, because we certainly need a competitive Premier League. And Saturday, loads of competitive football, lads. So let's roll forward.
Yeah, let's get stuck in.
Get stuck into Saturday's best bets. Sam, yours is what I'd call the most boring, but actually probably the most sensible bet in terms of I will not sit through Wolves Nottingham Forest because of what you think will happen.
Yeah, I think let's quickly talk about this. I know they've obviously Wolves have sat their manager now, so you could argue maybe they're about to be set free. But if you look at that team, there's not really much attacking wise to set free, is there? They're absolutely dreadful. And Wolves v Forest, this is an under 25 special. You're getting over even money on this, 42-41, evens with most bookies. I just think under 2.5 is brilliant here. And I think we spoke about this before. I think you get far better value on an under 2.5 than you do an over 2.5 most of the time. It's one of my favorite bets. It's incredibly stinky and I don't feel good doing it. And when there's a game like Wolves Forest that you absolutely will not be watching whatsoever, it is quite good to do a bet like this. But basically these two teams, 18th and 19th in the Premier League respectively. Wolves have scored 5, Forest have scored 6. Wolves have conceded 3, Forest have conceded 7. Sorry, I'm actually talking absolute rubbish. That's a load of crap. Ignore those stats. But the point is they've scored between them 10 goals. These are not two teams that are particularly good going forward. Forest aren't particularly good defensively either, but I think it's just going to be a low-scoring game. I could see a 0-0, a 1-1, a 1-0, 2-0 maybe. There's not a way on earth I could see this getting 3 or more goals. And it's over evens.
I have to agree.
Yeah, I think it's logical. Wolves, I actually fearful, are obviously linked with Rob Edwards now after their first candidate for the job turned it down. Got to be a bit concerned for them. Jake, what you like a card bet for Saturday, don't you? And I think I'm in agreement here.
Yeah, Saturday. I've gone looking at that Wolves Forest game too. That Forest Villa game on Monday was arguably the worst game of Premier League football I've ever watched. It was absolutely abysmal. I hated every single second of it. It was just terrible. But Steve Cook he looks so leggy. I just can't understand how he's still a Premier League footballer. It blows my mind. I looked at the replies for the team news on Monday on Forest tweet just to see what they were saying, if any of the players look rubbish. I just wanted a card bet for that game. And everyone was like, why is Steve Cook playing? Why is Steve Cook playing? He's a booking. He's just guaranteed booking every time. And he did end up getting booked like 90th minute. So I was sweating because I did have a booking bet for him in that game. But he's had 4 bookings so far this season. And again, I just think in this game, there is a chance of that. And 9-2 for a player who's going to be playing centre-back. I know Farley mentioned that Wolves aren't the greatest going forward, but 9-2 is a very good price. And before I go to your bet, Boz, talking about Farley with under 2.5 goals, did you see Tuesday night's Champions League? Every game was under 2.5 goals.
Must have been a huge price. What are we talking like?
I think it was like...
It must have been 750 to 1, something like that.
I think so, yeah.
I reckon more, you know.
I mean, that's just... it must have been a 4-figure return off a quid.
Like that Man City game would have been...
Yeah, that's very good. Because, 1 to 10. Yeah, no, I'm probably completely miles out.
So I think I saw someone have it in play, and in play it was only like 500 to 1 because they had the City game like 70th minute or something like that. But it's just crazy when stuff like that happens. I tried to have similar last night. I had every game over 2.5 goals in the Champions League. I got rid of the Atletico game because I thought that's a stinker. The only game that let the game down was that Marseille Sporting game.
Oh,
that was only
with the red card.
Yeah,
that probably didn't help.
9 men. You had 9 men too. And it finished 2-0, and I was absolutely livid. But yeah, that's enough talk about unders and overs and everything like that. Boz, what's your best bet for Saturday?
Well, of course, it's a card bet, isn't it? You know me, more cards than Valentine's Day over here. Let's chat through this selection. So I'm going for the Leicester City v Crystal Palace game. For anyone that's not read the story yet, they've had to pull the birthday messages from the Leicester game because people were submitting ones that would subtly sound like Sack Rodgers or Brendan Rodgers out, which I thought was hilarious. To the point where someone made a Twitter parody account of the woman's name that had been submitted, saying she was upset that she couldn't actually have her birthday message read out. But on to more pressing matters. The actual game, I think Palace will win this, but I'm not putting them up at 2-1. That's a little bit too skinny for me. Looking through the form of Leicester, who's likely to play? They seem to have injury issues. Vestergaard's not getting near the team at centre-back, so I think indeed he might end up going there as a bit of a backup play if they don't start the young lad. And if players aren't fit, Johnny Evans, I think, is a little bit questionable. But one player that should start the game for them, and if he does, I'll be backing him, is Bukhari Samer in centre mid. Now, he plays kind of as a holding midfielder. The last 2 games he's played, he's been booked twice. Now, you know what price he is because you've seen the sheet when I submitted our tips in. He's 5-1. Now, I don't get it how you can have a player that's been booked in the last 2 games. Like 5-1 just looks wrong. I'd make him 7-2, maybe even as short as 11-4. And you've got to think about the opposition. I'm not just saying it because it's Crystal Palace and I support them. But when you watch Palace, the one thing they do is they pass and move the ball really nicely. They draw a lot of fouls. If you've got the likes of Zaha cutting inside, and I always tend to look at who we're up against for the fullbacks, but we can still go down the middle really effectively. Some of those balls pitched in to whoever's playing up top and laying them back off, and those players are waltzing through the middle. I mean, Eze scored a fantastic goal. Great to see him starting to turn back into like what I'd say is proper form. But just to conclude, Samara at 5-1. I mean, that's just a big price for a central mid in a game that should be a close game as well. I don't think Palace is going to walk all over Leicester, but if he starts 5-1, he won't be 5-1 once we get in play. Put it that way.
It's a massive, massive price. I love it. Let's move on to Sunday then, and go over what our best picks are for Sunday's games because thankfully, we've all gone for different games this week. I'll start off with you, Farley. You've gone for a Chelsea side to just carry on the form that they've been showing under Graham Potter so far.
Yeah, Chelsea to beat Villa 5-6, a little shade under evens, and I just think this is a great price. And this is one we're recording this on Thursday. Come Saturday, come Sunday morning, I doubt you'll be able to get 5-6 anywhere. I see you drinking your Prime there, Jake. Sponsored.
Sponsored stream.
Yeah, Chelsea 5-6. I don't think this price will be there Sunday morning. Let's put it that way. Villa are shocking. Gerrard has to be out that job soon. I just can't see him lasting any longer. And Potter, I don't think he's reinventing the wheel, and they don't look like world beaters yet, but they do look defensively strong, and they are improved in attack, I'd say, to maybe the last couple of weeks of Tuchel. So I just think this is an absolute banker, absolute banker.
That City game absolutely saved Gerrard, didn't it? When you look at the results around that afterwards and now. Funny enough, my tip comes in a game which I think will see finally Ralph Hasenhüttl put out of his misery at Southampton. Unfortunately, I'm sweating on him a bit because I took a fairly short price about him being next to go. I swear this man has been favourite next to go on so many occasions now.
Yes.
But it's pretty hot up there. Rodgers, I still think, won't walk, so they won't pay him, and he's probably just about got enough credit for another couple of weeks. Gerrard must be on the edge of being forced out now. They're interesting. Villa's next games, I think they've got Fulham, which is going to be a 6-pointer for them. So, but it's next Thursday. So, do they pull the trigger that quickly? I think unless Chelsea humiliate them, I think they're going to stick with him. Anyway, let's talk about West Ham and why they're a good price at 7-5. I know they've got to play this evening. Unfortunately, we're having to record this a bit ahead of time. Potentially, they could have a couple of injuries. If they can come through unscathed, they're playing Anderlecht, so I'm expecting the strong 11 out. I think they've got the hang of it a bit now, West Ham, the whole Thursday, Sunday. Sankamanka's really impressed me since joining. They're finally getting a tune out of him. I think Bowen's back.
No, we can't let you carry on there.
Yeah.
Did you say Franco Manca?
No, I did not say Franco Manca. I was trying to pronounce the name of the new Italian striker, who I think is really good. Thank you very much. Very much so. I think he's a little bit of a gem, I think. And West Ham seem to have a habit of signing players and it not working out. So I actually hope it does for them with him, because I quite like him. Bowen, well and truly back on form, which is great news for England as well, actually, because I got a sneaky feeling he could end up playing a bit of a part off the bench for England,
Ooh.
Big cool.
That's a massive show.
I think he's a little bit different to some of the other options we've got. West Ham are 7-5. I know it's not ideal playing the Sunday after playing Thursday, but Southampton are pretty average. You take James Ward-Prowse out that side. Is there anyone that would get into a top 8 team in the Premier League? No. Anyone that would get into a top 12 team in the Premier League? Probably not.
I like Walker Peters.
He's okay.
I said it as well, haven't I?
You can't have a go at Buzz.
I know. I can't.
Walker Peters.
Yeah.
Kyle
there we
Walker
go.
Peters.
We've managed to butcher his name. But anyway, so West Ham to win for me at 7-5. I did look draw no bet, but I thought it was a bit cowardly, so I've gone for just West Ham to win.
Nice. I do like that one.
Go on, Jake. Finish us off here.
Quickly, because I haven't really got any stats or anything for you for this one, but I've just got Arsenal to win and both teams to score against Leeds. That's around 2-1. I'm going off really having watched Leeds last month against Chelsea, and Leeds impressed me in that game. Watched Leeds last week actually against Palace, and to be honest with you, in the first half I thought Leeds played really well. But Palace came into it stronger in the second half and kicked on and won the game. But I just 2-1, great price. Arsenal to win and both teams to score against Leeds, because Arsenal are class as much as it pains me to say.
Really quickly on that note, Jake, just having a quick browse through the sack market. Jesse March is 25-1 next to go.
Ooh.
I don't think I'd want to take that now, but I think once we get this weekend out of the way, I could possibly see a double sacking or whatever, or at least I think he needs to be on your radar as a manager under a bit of pressure soon.
What's going to be interesting is if that World Cup break just suddenly gives us like 4 or 5 seconds, there's just a massive managerial merry-go-round during that break.
A great opportunity to sack a manager, isn't it, though? Because you've still got the bulk of the season. They get a transfer. They get time to give you a transfer window the other side of it. Just looking at Leeds' run, they play Arsenal, which you wouldn't expect them to get anything out of necessarily. Then they go away to Leicester Thursday, which is a 6-pointer. Then they're at home to Fulham, and then it's Liverpool away. And then the last game they've got before we have the break. No, sorry, they've got a couple before the break. Then they've got Bournemouth. Like, they either seem to have what I'd call 6-pointers or basically games you wouldn't expect them to win. So unless they pull off a shock result, I think they're in a bit of bother personally, and I think Jesse March could be. His team was interesting. I watched the Palace game. I don't know. I don't think it's quite working for them at the moment.
Well, if there's one guy who might be back in America for his holidays, let's go on a holiday ourselves. Let's get down to Gatwick, get ourselves over to Spain for this weekend's El Clasico, 3:15 p.m. on Sunday. Probably the most anticipated El Clasico, I'd say, in probably since Ronaldo left Spain, I'd say. This actually feels like a really important game. Obviously, both teams far improved this season despite Barcelona's Champions League failings. Barcelona currently sit top of the league, 22 points from 8 games, tied with Real Madrid, but with a slightly better goal difference. And they only conceded 1 goal, incredibly, so far this season, which is pretty amazing for a team that still plays PK routinely at the back, who looked absolutely dreadful yesterday. Also, I've got a bone to pick with you guys. You talked about watching the Liverpool Rangers game yesterday. Yeah. What on earth were you doing watching that game when Barcelona Inter Milan was on? That was a cracking game of football.
I did have the goal show on the iPad, so I was kind of able to keep an eye on it.
I only ever watch goal show on me, mate, so they were focusing a lot on that. But last 10 minutes, I did put the Barca Inter game on because I needed Barca to win first.
It could have gone either way, that game. It was fantastic, wasn't it, to watch? But Barcelona, they must be in even bigger fiscal trouble missing out on the next stage of the Champions League.
Yeah, they're out in a lot of trouble.
This game, I actually wrote in the notes, basically, I didn't have a strong view, but I just expect Real Madrid to win. I'll have a glance at the card market, but, I'd probably be keen to back something like, I don't know, on the card handicap, Barcelona +1 is 4-9. That's the sort of thing I'll throw in a bet builder with Real to win, maybe -1, just as a bit of juice to the price. But yeah, I'm excited about it. But you two would know more about both sides. And Jake, you love that -1, don't you?
I absolutely love it. Yeah. Barca just, again, like Farley said about them last night, they just don't look like a very good team defensively. PK, I know you said PK is bad, Farley, but Eric Garcia, who we give him, is absolute. He's a shambles. He's rubbish. Oh, don't want you to hear me coughing there. Sorry, but Barca haven't lost in 19 away games in La Liga, which I thought was absolutely incredible. Like, since October last year, they haven't been beat. But Real Madrid -1 and the handicap at 10-3 just looks like the bet for me in this one. What about you, Farley?
Yeah, I think, like I mentioned, Barca have only conceded 1 goal domestically in 8 games this season. And I think that does give a bit of a false impression about how good they are defensively. I think it's a mixture of them playing crap teams to start the season. And also, the one thing I will say about them, their midfield is absolutely incredible. Gavi and Pedri, obviously, like metronomes passing the ball. Busquets, I think, maybe one of the most sort of disrespected players of our like modern era. Like, I think he's one of those guys that when he retires, I think people will realise just what a special talent he was. And obviously, Frankie de Jong can't even get in the team, which is absolutely insanity to me. But when you see those other guys, it does kind of make sense. But they're just not good defensively. But they have Robert Lewandowski, who is a guarantee of a goal, I'd say. Last week, I think my bet was Real Madrid to win and both teams to score, because that had happened. Or sorry, they conceded at least one goal in every single game in the league. They actually didn't do that last week as soon as I backed it. But I am back at the well this week. Real Madrid and both teams to score. I think Madrid will probably score a couple here. I think like the pace of somebody like Vinicius Jr. against that sort of Barcelona defense is going to cause them so many issues. But ultimately, Lewandowski will probably nab one back. And it's a real weird one, because the likes of Eric Garcia, I'd say Bellerin, as much as I quite like the guy, falls into this as well. Just signing players aren't really good enough purely because they've got some sort of tenuous link with Barcelona. It's not getting them on the cheap. It just the whole way that club's sort of built themselves, I really don't like them, and I hope they do get stuffed by Real Madrid on Sunday.
The mad thing is, last year Barca were in absolute disarray, and then went to the Bernabeu and won 4-0. So,
I mean, anything can happen in these games. From a card perspective, interestingly, I just had a check there. You can get odds against every single player at the moment. So if you're fairly convinced your player's going to start, I'm surprised there wasn't a few more odds-on shots for the cards there. But, whoever's got to have the difficult
job. No Casemiro anymore, mate. He'd have been like 4-9 or something.
Yeah, he would have been skinny. Right. Quick trip to Racing Corner next, just to say we have got Champions Day this weekend, where if you've watched our earlier shows, I advised Trushan, who was a really nice price when we put him up, because there was a horse in the market who was very short price favourite, who I didn't think was going to run, and luckily we've been proven right that he's not going to run. It should be a really good day. Perhaps from a betting perspective, Champions Day's not the most exciting watch, just because there's going to be a few short price favourites, that kind of thing. I think that sometimes does not necessarily spoil it, but just make things a little bit harder. But our race is the first race on the card. It's the 125. Trushan, now, your best price you'll get is 2-1. I wouldn't be backing him at 2-1. We took the 4s, and I think there was a little bit of 9-2 kicking around when we had it. He will face a decent field, though. You've got the likes of Elder off for Roger Varian in there, Waterlooville for connections, and Coltrane, who's improved a bit this year. But I'm fairly confident Trushan and Holly Doyle will get things off to a flyer. A couple of other races on the card that you'll enjoy. The Champions State Sprint, which follows that race, is quite good. You'll get probably 5 places everywhere, which is always quite handy. Just keep an eye on the ground. Obviously, we're recording this a little bit further out, but yeah, I think it's always a good feature, but it does really draw the curtain down on the flat season beyond the Breeders' Cup, which we'll have a few tips for. And next week, join us, where I will give you 3 horses to follow for the jump season. I'm going to give you a bumper horse from last year. I'm going to give you a novice hurdler to keep an eye on. And I'll give you a novice chaser as well, just to keep the eye on it and keep things peeled. And
just a quick one, Buzz. Is there anything that you think can oppose Baid this weekend?
No, not really. The weather was your best bet. If we had the typical weather we get for Champions Day, I think you would have felt a lot more confident taking him on. The good thing is, and this is where you can be a little bit crafty and a little bit clever, is we've got a really nice shape of the race as it stands, touch wood, with 8 running. So you've got the 2 places each way. And to give you some context, you'll get 5-1 on Adair, next best in the market, and it's double figures everything else. So if you can make a case for one of the bigger priced horses, your likes of, I don't know, perhaps you could make a case for Stone Age at 66s to run onto a place, maybe Royal Champion at 50s. It could be worth having a look at that angle. Obviously, if you go betting without, you only get 2 places. Baid, realistically, if he's fit and well, he wins it. And he goes out unbeaten, albeit I'm a little disappointed he didn't go to the Arc, not just for my pocket, but just for the improvement there for that element of the race. But that wraps up Racing Corner. For some reason, I moved it up the running order. Can you tell we're ill and we're all over the place? And clearly my head has gone, because it's bankers bust and draw that we're supposed to be talking about, isn't it, lads?
I think the only thing bust is our immune systems right now. All right, let's just run through this. You all know the drill. We each pick a banker, each pick a bust, and then pick a game that's going to be a draw in the Premier League. Jake, go first. Guide us through your three.
Yeah, banker for this week, Chelsea to beat Villa. Chelsea are good,
Easy.
Villa are bad. City are my bust. I'm going to go against my own team just because that 1 win in 20 at Anfield. I can't be
Reverse
City.
jinxing, such
No.
bollocks.
Oh, it's
Oh,
so
Liverpool-
hard being successful.
Liverpool-
I don't like to
Liverpool-
turn up on a Wednesday. Ooh.
Liverpool 4-1. It's a big price.
You're 4 to
Fulham
5.
four.
That's a massive price.
Don't know if it is. Fulham v Bournemouth is my draw. I'd usually go Fulham to win this game tonight, but Mitrovic being out injured is making me think that Fulham might not have the firepower up front against Bournemouth. And Bournemouth have looked good under Gary O'Neill, to be honest. So Fulham Bournemouth, that's my draw for the week.
All right, what you got for us, Boz?
City in my banker. Jake's talking rubbish. He's doing his weird. Oh, I'm a fan, so I'm a bit nervous. Looking at it objectively, at 4 to. How often are we going to get back City at 4 to 5 when they're going to be playing off the back of a disappointing midweek as well? Pep's going to really be getting into them. Like he won't be letting the excuse of a bottle hitting the team coach on the way in to the ground upset them. They've got to be winning this. So yeah, City my banker at 4 to 5. My bust. Why are Fulham odds on? I think the odds compilers and I think us as fans are not giving Gary O'Neill's Bournemouth any respect at the moment. Fair play to the guy, because I thought Bournemouth were useless, and I know they've probably been picking up points against teams that are a bit moderate. But listen, they turned it round last week against Leicester. Who genuinely would have seen that coming? By the way,
No,
I wouldn't have.
me.
So Fulham will be my bust at odds on. And then my draw's the same as Sam Farley's, and he put it in first, so I won't say too much and ruin his thunder. But Wolves v Forest looks like the sort of game to me they could play till Christmas and they'd be 0-0. This stinks of a draw, 1-1, 0-0.
Yeah, I'll go through mine. I'll start with the draw. What Boz said, this under 2.5 draw, nailed all over. Crap game. Don't bother watching it. My bust, I'm going back to front. It's Man United. I just think it's a bit of a risky one, isn't it? Like they're evens at home to Newcastle, and this Newcastle team actually know how to defend. Relatively good going forward. I just think I wouldn't want to place that bet at evens, that's for sure.
United playing Thursday as well, whereas Newcastle getting that little bit more time. Yeah, I can.
Yeah,
the angle.
It's
I won't be
a
backing
risky
him
one.
at evens. Yeah, good shout.
Winning bet here. The banker. Sorry, I'm literally my head's full of cold. Arsenal, they're distant. Yeah, they're going to win, aren't they? So look, let's move on to the EFL. We like to go through our best EFL bets here. Inevitably, Boz is going to go for the Championship. I'll take some from League One, and then Jake always hovers about, sort of picks throughout. So actually, that is exactly what we've done. Jake, why don't you start here?
Yeah, I've gone for Huddersfield to beat Rotherham at 5-2, and strangely enough, I watched Huddersfield against Hull last week. I think it might have been an early kickoff on a Sunday, and he wasn't showing any other games, so I thought, I'll watch this. And Huddersfield played really well. They've got a new manager now. You may have seen his interview go viral this week because he's got a hybrid of Scottish and Spanish accent going on, but he has come in and turn the team's fortunes around, and they looked really good in that game. I know they're against Hull, who are pretty rubbish, but they come up against the Rotherham side, who also have a new manager in Matty Taylor, and Paul Warne leaving there means that it's going to take a lot of time to adjust. But Rotherham haven't won in the last 4 games. Huddersfield's away record has been rubbish, in all honesty, but at 5-2, I just think it is a massive price for them to get a win here. And under the new management, they can push on and kick off away from safety, I think.
I like it. Boz, guide us through the Championship. I like this bet, actually. Tell us.
This is just a classic. Is it new manager or is it not new manager? It's caretaker manager in this case. But Mark Hudson was at the club already working as the number 2 before Cardiff decided they wanted to sack the previous incumbent. He's taken the job, and I think they'll be pretty keen for him to take it. He's really liked down there, Mark, and he was a real good player at Palace, and I got a lot of time for him. And he's turned the fortunes round, 7 points out of the last 9, winning 2 games. drawing the other one. They face, I don't know why their odds against facing a Coventry side that are bottom of the league, poor. Yes, they've got a couple of games on a few people down there, but they don't look great. So logic dictates. Now, this is the Championship, so you should always reverse whatever the logic says. But I just think this is a good audition for Mark Hudson. He's definitely got a couple more games. He's got QPR, and I think then it's Swansea. Realistically, if he wants the job, this is the easiest game he's got left to get 3 points from that run before they maybe make a decision on keeping him or not. So I think Cardiff, he's clearly got the players playing for him, which is well done. Kudos to him. And I look forward to seeing what they can achieve. And 5-4 is a good price.
Before I say mine, I'm just going to ask you as a question: is there any league in the whole world that is harder to predict than the Championship?
I rarely bet on it because of that. I mean, when I used to support a team in it, it was you just scratch your head every week.
It's carnage, isn't it?
It's just weird. I don't know whether it's something to do with the fact that I wonder if there's a lot of players in that league that have come down from the Premier League that potentially you look at and go, maybe potentially, they don't fancy the Tuesday, Saturday, so you get teams coming down that are underpriced that then can't do it. But it's just a weird league. I do think the one problem the Championship has is there's a lot of turmoil in the squads. So it's better now there's a January cutoff, but you could have teams with a really good goal scorer who disappears to the Premier League in January. Managers get pinched out that league an awful lot. I think that's part of the reason it's so inconsistent.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think I heard somebody, might have been Peter Crouch, somebody was saying like a while back that the difference between players in the Premier League and Championship, bar the top players, ability-wise, isn't really that much. It's just a matter of consistency. The guys in the Premier League can do it, 19 games out of 20. In the Championship, they can't, which is why they're released and they go to other clubs. And I think that's part of why you see it. Like there's some incredible footballers down there, but they just don't maybe have that ability to kind of do it week in, week out. Hence why they're at like a Watford or Coventry or whatever, and not in the Premier League. But for me here, I'm going to Monday. This is on Monday, this game. Charlton versus Portsmouth. Portsmouth are 7-4, which I think is a really good value. They're fifth in the league table. And they actually, if they win their games in hand, they could go up to kind of, I think it's third. Yeah, third. They are a good team. They can score goals. And Charlton thrashed my team. I think it was 5-1, 5-2 in the end. I can't even remember because I left and went to the pub. But Charlton are not that good whatsoever. Portsmouth are very capable. They have a brilliant fan base. And I think it's 7-4. That's the sort of price I take every day of the week for a team like Portsmouth on the road, regardless of opposition, actually.
I like it. Before we do go ahead to the weekend treble, I just want to touch on something that we mentioned earlier around England's defensive options and Reece James being injured, Trent being injured. Is there anything in the last week that has caught your attention in terms of the odds for defenders for England? So I'm just looking now, and Trent's replacement in the Liverpool squad, Joe Gomez, is 14-1 currently to get in the England squad. Is that something? Could he get in, or is it just going to be a case of the usual? I know Ben White's now into 8-11. I know we spoke about him last week, and he was odds against. But is there anyone who takes your fancy in the defensive market for England?
There is still a bit of 4-5 kicking around about Ben White. Just if you check your comparison sites, Jake, and you'll be able to find him.
Superb.
I would, Jarrod Bowen, who I mentioned earlier, is 6-4. I know he's not a defender, but just one that's catching the eye. I don't know what James Maddison's going to have to do to get in the squad, but I don't think Southgate likes the look of him. Tamori, I know, obviously hasn't had the best of weeks, but in recent times he's caught my eye. Sorry, what were you going to say, Sam?
He's been awful of late. I think he's really done himself a disservice. I don't think he really has much chance anymore. Which
is a shame. So yeah, I can't get too excited about the defensive options for England, if I'm honest. I just think Southgate will play it very safe. You know, if you like the interest rate of 25%, there's a bit of 1-4 about Maguire. He'll go. Eric Dyer made a bit of a howler, didn't he, midweek?
Yeah.
I don't know. I would say from a World Cup perspective, the defence is definitely England's biggest problem.
I think Kyle Walker-Peters is the right back I'd be betting on at 25-1 if you think our kind of big four aren't going to make it. Because I think he's at that price. Ben White, I'm not betting on at 8-11. Whereas Walker-Peters, I think he's pretty solid. He's played twice already this calendar year for England. Southgate likes him. Seems like a good character, and I think he's kind of one I'd look at. I think one player I've actually been really impressed with recently is Ruben Loftus-Cheek, and he's 7-1 to be on the plane.
Oof.
Are we missing players that can sort of hold that midfield and just kind of sit a bit deeper? Because I feel like we're blessed with these attacking guys, but some of the deeper players, Ward-Prowse looks crap at the moment. Calvin Phillips isn't fit. Henderson, his legs are absolutely
He'll go
gone.
though, won't he? This is the trouble. He's going to go, even though we probably don't fancy him much. We know he's going to go.
I don't know if he will, to be honest.
Henderson will go. I can't foresee. I think Southgate will play it very safe. I think there'll be one surprise inclusion, and I don't even think it'd be like a Theo Walcott level of a surprise inclusion. It'll be one particular sort of pick out. I must say, Tariq Mitchell's another player that's not done himself many favours. Patrick Vieira gave him a rest the other day. Thought he was coming in. What about a bit of a left field shout here? I mean, centre backs perhaps not necessarily an issue for us, but should Chris Smalling not be a shorter price than 12-1?
I think if he was playing in England, he would be. I think it is a case of him playing for Roma that's making him such a big price, to be honest.
It just seems a big price for a player that, you know, has been there, done that, got the T-shirt a little bit.
He's been brilliant for Roma as well.
I'd sooner he went than Connor Cody, if I'm honest. And I know Connor Cody's playing again at Everton, but
he's playing brilliantly though, Cody right now.
But I don't know. There's something about a cultured centre back I'd prefer.
One thing I'll say about Smalling, a lot of the people who tell me every week on Twitter Tomori has to go because they're obviously watching Milan every week. They seem to be, despite watching Italian football every week, they don't seem to mention Smalling, which I find funny. But he's genuinely so impressive there. Mourinho rates him, and I think if Mourinho rates you as a centre half, that's one thing I would really kind of take on board, because
it's just a funny.
All you want to say about Mourinho, the guy knows a defensive player when he sees one.
It's just mad, isn't it? Mark Gianni from Palace, who's had a good season, he's an even money shot to go, and Smalling's 12-1. Like, that's not how you should. Like, that's not how it should be priced.
No.
Yeah, on ability and performances, 100% agree with you.
Ryan Sessegnon at Spurs, 4-1 across the board. Do we think he's got a chance?
Yeah, I think. What was he when I tipped him a while back? Was it 8s or 12s?
I thought, or something like that, wasn't it? At one point,
it was a big price. It was definitely a big price. I think 4-1's probably where it should be. Like, you got Shaw isn't really playing much. Chilwell is playing now. But I mean, behind that, I mean, if one of them gets injured, heaven forbid, Tyreek Mitchell, you mentioned, not playing particularly well. Cresswell, a lot of people talk about, but not for me, Clive. All in all, yeah, I really like Sessegnon. I think there's a player in there.
What about this for a non-defensive shout for Anthony Gordon from Everton to be the surprise pick at 8s?
Farley would love that.
Yeah,
love that.
I think I've talked about him being in there before.
Yeah.
He should have been in the last squad. 100% should have been in it. And I know you talked about Bowen being like a potential X factor for England. I don't see it at all. But Gordon, he's got that. And I'm not comparing him to Rooney. I mean, I know he's from the same club originally.
Wow, that would be, yeah, please. No, don't put those two names in the same sentence.
I'm not comparing him on ability, because Rooney, for me, is the best young player I've ever seen when he was sort of 17, 18. But Anthony Gordon, one thing that really gives me like Rooney vibes is the like fearlessness that he plays with. Like, he plays with no fear. He doesn't give a flying about anyone he comes up against. Really good attitude, gets stuck in, works so hard for the team as well. I was really surprised he didn't get a call up, to be honest. And I think I feel like Southgate isn't going to call anybody up who's never played for England before. I think you might get the shock, and there's always one. The shock for me will be there'll be a recall, someone that we've not seen in a while that gets recalled again. Could be a Rashford, could be a Sancho, but I don't think we'll see Gordon get his first England cap at a World Cup.
Rashford wouldn't be a shock at the moment, I don't think, for me.
No, I do think it sounds like he would have been called up last time if it wasn't for that niggle that he had.
I mean, injury is going to play such a big part, though. This is now the scary part of the season, isn't it? Games are still very competitive. They're coming thick and fast. We're bound to lose somebody good to injury. It's inevitable. Looks like Kyle Walker won't be there, which is a blow. Man of his experience, and Southgate likes and trusts him. It's going to be a case of now having to hope that we can hold on to the ones we've got and take a good squad there. But yeah, good shout, Jake, to have a chat over it, and we'll touch on it again, I'm sure.
100%.
Sam's our resident England expert. He's going to be over in Qatar as well, lucky boy. And cheering us on, hopefully, all the way to a Gareth Southgate World Cup victory.
Sir Southgate. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Let's get stuck into the weekend treble now. And I'm going to tell you this. I know we always talk about this after we've gone to the picks. I'm going to tell you this beforehand. 10-1 you're getting on this treble, which is it's a pretty tasty price. And I think let's go in order of odds. So, Boz, you're the tight wad here who stitched us up with.
I'm the coward this week. I mean, I'm very rarely the coward. I've thrown a bit of NFL in there, Sam, which I'm sure I'll get your take on this. Kansas City host the Bills this weekend. It's quite a late kickoff as well if you're going to be watching, which is a shame because I think this will be a really good game. Very entertaining. Chiefs, for me, still one of the most exciting teams in the NFL to watch. Still normally manage to deliver. It's a tight game, this one, but with the +3 handicap, they're 17-20, which I think is a really, really fair game. I think this will be close. I think the explosiveness of Mahomes means you're always, if they're within a score going into the last couple of minutes, you're not going to be too worried. I could foresee this being a bit of an overtime special, but yeah, the +3 for me, KC, I think, Sam, they deserve it. The Bills, for me, not this team that I thought they were going to be at the start of the season just yet.
I go the other way. I think the Bills have been so impressive. And this is a game I wouldn't personally. I'm really looking forward to watching it, but I don't want to have money on it. It scares the.
But isn't that why you play the other side of it if it's a close game?
The thing is, I could either see +3 is a tricky price for me because I either see the Chiefs winning it outright, and they obviously the +3 would come in then, or I see the Bills absolutely smash them for 6, and it's like win by 20 points or something. It's such a tough one. I think it's. I'm not going to tell you it's a bad call,
tell me it's a bad call. I like it. Next week when I come back on, I can really give it you.
No, I can't decide. It's. I mean, this is maybe the first true blockbuster game of the NFL season, so it's going to be a good one.
Just on the NFL season, it has been a bit strange, hasn't it? I don't feel like there's enough breakout teams at the moment. Like you do your power rankings, don't you, on your Twitter every week, and you must have chopped and changed them quite a bit this year.
Yeah, and I think I said the other day, bar the top, I can't remember, it was 4 or 5 teams. I think the quality below that's pretty bad. And Tom Brady said something similar the other day. They asked him kind of if he'd been watching much football, and he said, yeah, he's watched a lot of football, but all he sees is a lot of teams that aren't particularly good. And it definitely feels like that. I mean, I'd say the Chiefs, the Bills, the Eagles are a step above everybody right now. And after that, it does start to fall off quite quickly. And when you get to around, I was doing power rankings, teams around 7th or 8th, I mean, they're really not that good. So it's a tough one. But anyway, I'm going to give you my pick. And this is very stinky bet. It's a team I think I've bet against plenty of times already this season. Stevenage to beat Gillingham. It's even money. Stevenage are pretty good, top of League Two, and Gillingham are just absolutely woeful. They're another team that are an under 2.5 special nearly every week. But it's an easy Stevenage win here, I would say, even though they're on the road.
Nice. I'll wrap it up then for the treble with the biggest odds pick, and it's one that I've tipped up previously on the show. Arsenal to win and both teams to score against Leeds on Sunday. There's nothing really more I need to go into in terms of the odds, but I just think it's nailed on price, nailed on bet. I think Arsenal will win and Leeds will score against them.
That's 2-1, that one, isn't it?
2-1, that one. Yeah.
So that's, I think you're getting just over 10-1 on all three of these, which
I
know I said I'm a bit unsure on Boz's, but it is the great thing about these spreads. It is like a 50-50 bet. You're either going one way or the other.
And it's the last leg, Sam. So at the very least, you can always hedge it out, cash it out, or play against it.
That's true. Well, hopefully, guys, we'll be back next week slightly more healthy. Let's hope so anyway. Otherwise, one of us might be dead.
There's a chance. There's definitely a chance.
We'll have loads next week.
Yeah, if you like your betting and you're looking to join the At Odds pod, one of us probably won't be here next week. We'll be in a hole in the ground, so you can take one of our shoes. All right, it's been a pleasure, guys. You guys have made me feel better. You are my Morrison's cold and flu pills, whatever they are. Have a good time, and we'll.
Cheers for watching, everyone. Thank you for subscribing and give us a like as well. We do appreciate it. And a 5-star review on any of the podcast platforms that you listen to would be really helpful.